Okay, everybody, we are finally here! Though I'm very sad about it, too, because this is apparently the last book in mine's point of view. So, yeah. We're apparently going to be getting a spin-off series in Handler's point of view. Or at least a spin-off book. If not more? I don't know. But I really do hope that, dang it, whatever her name is, the author. The funny thing is I'm a big fan, yet, don't even know the author's name. Anyway, hopefully she does more since Bookworm in the future. Okay, I think this is where I last left off. Okay, future chosen. Yeah, I'm getting hugged right now. I wasn't entirely sure what had inspired this sudden change in him. I mean, considering if you had seen what was going on while you were unconscious, you would kind of understand why it came to this point. But it was rare for Ferdinand to hug me unprovoked. I mean, he thought you were gonna die, and you wouldn't get your memories back, so, yeah. It was strange, but I simply rode the wave and wrapped my arms around him. My head was still spinning from the sudden rush of memories, and reliving such tender moments with my family had made me miss them more than ever. Well, I mean, girl, you're going to be able to spend time with them now because you're out of Fist, so that contract is null and void that you signed with Sylvester, that you couldn't call them family, but you can't still openly call them family in front of Aronsbach and everybody else. But you can still go visit them a whole heck of a lot more than you did before. Uh-oh. Back to normal. Ferdinand recoiled and pulled away with the slightest hesitation. Rosamund, what do you think you're doing? He asked with a grimace. I was aghast. He had embraced me. Yeah, you kind of acted without thinking there. Then again, you were relieved, so, I mean, it's to be expected, but this is Ferdinand we're talking about here. Actually saying that would spark a debate, though, and my odds of winning were laughable while my thoughts were still clouded. I would need to take a more diplomatic approach. Isn't it unfair that you get to hug me when you're stressed out, but I can't do the same with you? I wish to request an extension of our embrace. I can be counted as wrong. Excuse me? I want an extended hug. Duh. I want to hug you more. Thanks to the double whammy of us synchronizing and my memories suddenly coming back to me, my mind and emotions are a complete mess, I said, making my demands clear. Ferdinand grimaced again and with some trepidation relented. I was finally able to look around, whereupon I noticed we were back in the Foundation's hall. Ferdinand was on his knees with his arms once again wrapped around me. No wonder I didn't feel cold. Heave-ho, I muttered, twisting in place so I could embrace him more comfortably. His scent and warmth put me at ease. But his heart was pounding, and his breathing seemed unusually shallow. I mean, he's probably exhausted as well. This sure is calming, I said. Not for me, Ferdinand. With the sigh. I sensed that he was about to pull away again, so I stubbornly clung to him. That means you need more hugs. Even more hugs. I'm going to go all out. That is not what it means. Oh, dear Lord. Rosamund, you are a hugger. I will say that. You love hugs. So, yeah, Ferdinand's not going to have to get used to it. He's going to have to get used to that. Ferdinand shot back. He sounded tired and somewhat annoyed, but held me close with one hand and used the other to play with my hair in an unsurprising twist. He really did want more hugs. He was just refusing to be honest about it. Then why were you already embracing me when I woke up? That was your fault, Ferdinand replied, truly displeased. You refused to wake up when our synchronization abruptly ended. He had apparently started to panic, fearing that I had climbed the towering stairway to the distant heights. Yeah, he's worried that you died. Was I really in that much danger? Do we even need to ask? You spent days on the verge of death. It amazes me that you can remain so calm. If we had allowed my mana level to return to the point before I supplied the Foundation, I would most likely have succumbed to the pain. Using a rejuvenation potion had been out of the question, meaning it was a race to see whether my mana or my stamina would run out first. And of course, if not for Ferdinand redying my mana as soon as it reached its minimum threshold, my lack of mana would probably have killed me. It wouldn't have been strange for me to have died at any moment over the past few days. I understood that my life was on the line, I said. That was why I didn't want to sleep and give my mana time to replenish. Still, I never doubted that you'd come through for me. It was the only thing that kept me from getting too negative. Yeah, she had faith that you would come through. I really had thought everything would work out in the end, assuming we managed to drain my mana, but remaining so optimistic hadn't been an option for Ferdinand, on whom my survival depended. The moment your mana was drained, I made you drink a synchronization potion and poured my liquid mana down your throat, Ferdinand explained. I used the memory-searching magic tool to channel even more mana into you, then called out to you from within your mind. You took a painfully long time to respond, and even then, none of your lost memories wanted to return. We did eventually stumble upon a memory with potential, and as soon as the light of your blessing came down, our synchronization ended. He had regained consciousness, unsure of what had just happened. It seemed reasonable to assume that I'd cancelled our synchronization, but then why hadn't I woken up with him? Seeing me completely unresponsive, he had despaired that the omni-elemental blessing in my memories must have reacted with the trace amounts of divine mana still within my body. It hadn't been my intention to end our synchronization. I'd seen the blessing, and then completely zoned out as my lost memories came rushing back to me. Then I'd woken up to find Ferdinand embracing me for seemingly no reason. You don't need to worry anymore, I said, patting him on the back. Because of you, my memories have returned. Despite my best attempts to comfort him, Ferdinand still seemed distraught. His heart continued to race, and his fingers combing through my hair froze. He squeezed me so tight that it went from feeling nice to almost hurting. I gazed up at him, worried that something was wrong. Ooh, what's going on here? Is everything okay, I asked? Rosemine, do I what? His voice kept cracking and sounded so raspy that I could barely understand him. Assuming... I don't know. Ferdinand paused, his eyes betraying a deep sense of dread, and then loosened his hold on me enough to pull away a little. Do you wish to be a commoner again? Excuse me? I cocked my head at him, completely unsure what he was getting at. We could use this opportunity to claim that you had passed away while expending the last of your divine mana and return you to being a commoner. Problem with that. There is a very huge problem with that. If you're going to claim that story, all of her name sworn would have to die in order to make that even seem possible, because she was busy expending her mana, and the others were still alive and not even having any kind of knowing that she could have released their names, because I'm sure they would have felt that. They would have felt that she released their name sworn, released them from being her name sworn. So surely they can't really use that story. My heart thumped. Now that memories of my commoner days were fresh on my mind, the idea of going back to my lower city family sounded more appealing than I could put into words. I wanted to agree at once, but I needed to be realistic. It was impossible for me to return to my old way of life when everyone knew me as a divine avatar. Ferdinand understood noble politics far better than I did, so his proposal seemed nonsensical, unless... Ferdinand, is this your way of telling me that I'm going to die soon? Like, I don't have long before my divine mana kills me, so I might as well spend the rest of my time with my family? No, because you were already at that point anyway before all this. No, synchronizing with you made it perfectly clear that you are at your happiest when you are with your family. Having to live apart from them would only cause you heartache. Is he being serious right now? My pulse quickened and my breathing felt shallow. How would you even go about making me a commoner again? Everyone in the lower city thinks mine is dead. And nobles of every duchy now recognize me as a divine avatar of Messinor. Aren't you forgetting Alexandria's foundation and my library city and... We would wait until the Archduke Conference when the Zent would make you Ob Alexandria and declare your engagement to me. From there, we would make internal plans for me to take over as the Archduke, then announce your death as a result of some lingering health concerns. Oh, he actually just mentioned it. He just mentioned that they are actually engaged, because that his decree that he was supposed to, that when they sent him to Arensbach in the first place, said that he had to marry the person who was to become the Archduke, or Archduchess, I should say. So that is still in effect as far as we know. And since she's now going to be the Ob... You would return to being a commoner, and I would oversee the foundation and the construction of your library city. Ferdinand assured me that I could go back to being a commoner as long as we coordinated with the Gutenberg's move. The commoners of Alexandria didn't know that mine had died at 7 years old. It wouldn't be too hard for the Gutenbergs, who knew my face, to keep quiet about it, and some extra assistance from the planting company, and everyone else would surely help in their cover-up. He continued, though it was out of the question in Ehrenfest, if I took over as Ob Alexandria, I could protect you and your family. It occurred to me only during the synchronization, and many details will need to be ironed out, but it is worth considering. No, Ferdinand sounded hesitant. I don't think his idea must have been even harder to implement than he was letting on. No, I think he's reluctant to do it because that would mean that you would essentially go back to being a commoner and that he wouldn't be able to be around you in the way that he has been, which he doesn't like the idea of. Still, he would never have proposed something that was outright impossible. One by one, the faces of my family arose in my mind. Dad, after realizing we could meet only through work, had traveled all the way to Haas just to see my face and exchange a few words with me. Mom had gone above and beyond to become a Renaissance, and Tuli had spent years making accessories for me as my very own hairpin craftswoman. Then there was Camille, whom I only managed to glimpse during the baptism ceremony. Oh, that's going to be the toughest one. Having to explain to Camille that Rosemine is his sister. His long-lost sister that was supposedly dead. That's going to be a freaking headache to tell him, and him trying to wrap his head around. Is living with them in the lower city even an option? One part of me kept repeating that it was okay to follow that path, but the other stubbornly disagreed. I could never be so heartless as to make Ferdinand endure the burdens to come. It felt like my noble and commoner sides were in battle to the death. Am I going to be in a long line of people who have dumped their troubles on Ferdinand to live as they desire? No! Don't do that. He's already got enough to deal with. He's not going to be able to enjoy being a mad scientist if he has to be Ob Alexandria. For my life to return to normal, Ferdinand would need to face a grueling battle as the Ob to protect my family and me, forced to shoulder... The fuck? What the fuck am I even hearing? I keep on hearing something. I don't know. Anyway, since I've already broken the immersion of reading the story. Anyway, if you have gotten this far in the book, and you haven't already subscribed, I'd recommend subscribing, because then you'll only get to hear whenever I upload new videos like this. Hopefully I can find another book to replace Ascendance of Bookworm, but whatever. And then you guys can suggest, new books for me to do, stuff like that. Forced to shoulder a crushing burden while showing no weakness to anyone. He would end up facing unthinkable hardships. My heart aches. I clutched my chest. Something was eating away at me, but I didn't know what. You're right, I said. Even now, I want to spend time with my family, but I care just as much about your happiness. Yeah, he deserves to be happy, too. It was my decision to steal Aaron's box foundation. How awful would it be for me to abandon my role as Alexandria's new Ob to indulge in a carefree life within my family? Leaving everything to Ferdinand at this juncture seemed even crueler than Sylvester dumping his workload on him, or Detlinde abandoning her duties to do as she pleased. You don't need to feel indebted to me, I said, looking him dead in the eye. You have repaid me 100 times over. I refuse to abandon you just so I can be a commoner again. Ferdinand adopted a neutral expression and shook his head. If your memories have returned, the same might be true of your face stone phobia. Someone who cannot use face stones will not be able to survive as a noble let alone an Ob. Even if you stayed, as our mana is almost identical, I would need to perform any necessary brews in your stead. You would serve as a figurehead Ob and nothing more, so your presence or lack thereof would not impact my burden. Ferdinand was only somewhat correct. The sole reason Ahrensbach was being remade into Alexandria and not wiped out for its treason was the advertisement that a divine avatar would take over as Ob and cleanse it of sin. How would the nobles of other duchies react if anyone else ended up in power? Not good. Not even Ferdinand could predict that. No matter how useless I might be, my status as a divine avatar is crucial, is it not? Just how much torment would you need to bear to concubine... Wait, what? What? to make me a commoner again. Do you think I'm too stupid to realize what it would mean for you, or just irresponsible enough not to care? I consider you neither stupid nor irresponsible, Ferdinand replied at length. I simply believe you should return to your family. Lutz means more to you than anyone else, correct? Our synchronization made that clear to me. This is your only chance to be... No, she can't! He's already engaged! Oh my god, what is she gonna think about that? Does she even know? Lutz and my family were important to me, but I wasn't gonna give up on Ferdinand to be with them. Were he some irredeemable tyrant, driven by lust and ambition to take extra wives and a harem of smoking concubines, then sure. He was the complete opposite, though. I could never just leave you, I exclaimed. Do you have any idea how much I'd worry? You're awful at asking for help. You try to do everything on your own and rely on potions to get by. You'd drop dead in no time. Yeah, she's not wrong. Rosamund, unless you take this opportunity to return, the seed of your romance with Lutz will never blossom, Ferdinand grimaced. You need to marry me instead. Duh. All she has to do is talk to her family, and they would tell her that Lutz and Tully are engaged to be married. Oh my god! And then that will go away big time. That will go away. My momentum died almost immediately. How had our conversation gone from returning me to my family to a marriage with Lutz of all people? Are we not on the same page? I don't think you are. Ferdinand, at what point did this become a discussion about marriage? I wouldn't marry Lutz, even if I did go back to being a commoner. Nobles might consider me a catch because of my mana and status, but the people of the lower city wouldn't give me a second glance. In their eyes, I'm sickly and unable to give them children since they don't have mana. Duh! As much as I wanted to return to my loved ones, the thought of marrying Lutz had never even crossed my mind. He deserved someone so much better, especially when he'd gone to such great trouble to keep me in touch with my family. Now that I thought about it, I wouldn't be a great wife, even by noble standards. My socializing and embroidery skills were painfully lacking because you decided to avoid it like the plague. Only a weirdo would want to get close to me outside the context of an arranged marriage. And what's this about us needing to marry each other, I asked. Isn't it my choice? Did she forget about the decree? Or does she not think, does she think it's not active at this point, considering Detlinde and all the others are essentially jailed? Obs chose their own partners, and the Zent then approved the union. Ferdinand wasn't being forced into anything. Yes, it certainly is. He cast his eyes down, slowly exhaled, then held up 3 fingers. You have 3 options. One is to return to being a commoner and marry whomever you please. Another is to continue with our plan and marry me. Or you could order Lady Eglantine to cancel the royal decree tied to our engagement and marry another man fit to wed Ob Alexandria. Take your pick. Huh? Okay, yeah. Yeah, she doesn't know about the decree still being active. Or she doesn't realize the context of it. My eyes widened. Excuse my bluntness, but what are you talking about? You make it sound like we're already engaged. When in the world did that happen? The moment you stole Ahrensbach's foundation. What? As I stared in shock, I mouth agape, Ferdinand explained. By way of royal decree, Troraqual ordered me to marry the inexperienced Ob Ahrensbach and support her in her administration. I must then adopt Lady Letizia during my star binding and educate her to take over as the Ob. The decree came about because Ahrensbach needed someone to support its next generation, or else it would collapse. Detlinde was due to becoming the Ob at the time, but that mantle has since passed to you, and the decree remains in place. He spoke like it was obvious. Well, I mean, as far as we know, it's still in effect, because like I said, Troraqual has not gone and told anybody that it wasn't. Well, then again, considering at the time when Rosamund stole the foundation, it was still in effect, and then all the other stuff happened, so of course he has not had time to even mention it. He would have mentioned it at the next Archduke conference, I'm assuming. How was I supposed to know the royal decree would remain in place even once Detlinde was out of the picture, or that taking Ahrensbach's foundation would mean accepting a fiancé as well? But nobody said a word about that before now. I mean, hello? All that other stuff happening? No one had reason to mention it during the heat of the fighting, and when the situation calmed down, the divine power had already left you in a state where it was important not to make you emotional. I clapped my hands together in realization. Ah, that's why my retainers changed their tune. Despite their initial complaints about me getting too close to Ferdinand, they'd suddenly stopped commenting on it. Only now had the mystery been solved. Ferdinand sighed. Your retainers became so compliant because you mentioned in Ehrenfest that I would make an ideal partner in a political marriage. I mean, he would. The fault lies with your irresponsible language. What? That was news to me. Well, I'm glad to work this out before I cause a disaster. You're a responsible man, Ferdinand, but there's no need to accept this burden just for my sake. We can go ahead and nullify the... Make no mistake, Rosemine. I actively sought this outcome, huh? Excuse me, what? I must have water in my ears still from getting a shower. You actively pursued the outcome of you two getting engaged and getting married. I'm hearing that right? I peered at him, unsure what he meant. He must have read my expression because he immediately elaborated. For as long as we have known each other, I have observed the bonds between you and your family, the ways you strove to remain close to them as a noble, and their determination not to lose you. Then you declared that I meant just as much to you, and continued to look out for me even after I moved to Ahrensbach. Everything I understand about family came from you. The synchronization potion made it clear, no? Just how much I crave the kind of bond you have with your family. So essentially, he's wanting to be seen as family to her, to have that kind of bond that she's got with her family. Oh, Ferdinand, the poor guy. He deserves it. Come on. He deserves to have that kind of bond and have that kind of, relationship. I nodded. His memories had revealed envy and admiration for my family, then bitterness and regret over tearing us apart. I might not have felt this way if I had remained in Ehrenfest, Ferdinand said. It would have been enough to watch you and your family from the shadows. But when I moved, the voices around you threatened to sever our connection. I did not wish to lose what we had, thus exploiting this royal decree was the most practical and efficient way to obtain you. That sounds wrong. I'm sorry, that sounds a little wrong. Am I the only one that thinks that sounds kind of wrong? In a way, he brushed my cheek with his finger, and an inexplicable shiver ran down my spine. The king who gave the royal decree is a king no longer, meaning he cannot interfere with my plans, Ferdinand continued. I also threatened the new Zent not to intervene unless you ordered it. You threatened the Zent? Ferdinand? Oh boy, this is gonna be interesting, guys. Before I could say anything else, his finger moved to my lips. He pressed against them only gently, but it was enough to silence me. I was hesitant to even to breathe. Well, I mean, this is the most physical, I guess, that Ferdinand have ever gotten with, well, anyone, to be honest. And most physical he's ever gotten with Rosemine. So this is essentially something very strange and out of character for him. I went to great lengths to make sure no one would oppose our engagement after your ascension to immortal divinity. I could not bear the thought of another man taking my place as your true family. What the fuck, Ferdinand? Just because she thinks of them, her logic is thinking of them as her family, as in she's close to them, she cares about them. But does that necessarily mean in a romantic way? Because, I mean, she doesn't think of that way about her own actual family, her parents, her sister, and Lutz. But does that include any kind of romantic feelings? Let me know in the comments. I want to know what y'all think about all this. Please. I swallowed hard. There was a fire in Ferdinand's light golden eyes that almost scared me. I wasn't sure I could get him whatever he was lusting for, and it made me so anxious that I wanted to run away. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Very interesting going forward. I wonder if he actually understands if he actually conveys to her what he means by true family. Like, romantic feelings, or just, having a true family bond In which case, does that even include romantic feelings? I don't know. Maybe we'll get an answer. But the hand resting on my back kept me in place. You are the only one who can stop me now, Rosemine. The new Zent's life is in your hands. Will you return to your loved ones and give me glimpses of your happiness? Will you accept our engagement and welcome me in? She's already thinks of you as family, dude! Whether you two get engaged or not. You are already family. Good lord. Like I said, whether they get engaged or not, she does think of him as family. Why else would she have stormed into Aaron's-Bach to save him? And welcome me into your family, or will you order Eglantine to overturn the royal decree? The choice is yours. Ferdinand stared straight at me as he awaited my answer. His intensity took me by surprise. I didn't know what he wanted, but I doubted that marrying me was the answer. Romantic love wasn't something I understood. Yeah, I think we kind of got that, considering I'm assuming you didn't have this kind of thing in your life back when you were Urano, and now this romantic love in this world is a whole heck of a lot more different than ours, our interpretation of it, and that she has no clue about it. Wasn't something I understood, and it was beyond me to return feelings that I couldn't even comprehend. My inability to give him what he desired would only frustrate me until the guilt became too much to bear. Your choice, Rosemine, he prompted. I twisted on instinct, hoping to escape, but I couldn't break it. Dude, you cannot get away from Ferdinand if he's physical. Yeah, you are not physically adept at this. Hang on, let me just make sure. Couldn't break his hold on me. I gazed up at him as he continued to await my answer. We sat in silence for a while until at last Ferdinand cast his eyes down inside. I'm guessing he's taking your silence as a rejection. He stopped touching my face and removed the hand resting on my back. The next time I met his gaze, I saw that he was defeated. Even his body language spoke to his disappointment. Now more than ever, I could tell that he was used to having his wishes ignored. Oh. That ain't right. Yeah, yeah, this isn't right. On instinct, I shook my head. I didn't understand the kind of love being discussed. Well, I mean, he probably doesn't either, to be completely honest. Yeah, you two are kind of two peas in the pod on this one. You guys both do not get when it comes to any kind of romantic love. I mean, Ferdinand can act like he understands it. He can go through the motions, but I don't think he truly understands the thought of romantic love. Because, I mean, he thought you were in love with Lutz, so, I mean... But I couldn't allow Ferdinand to leave. He rarely ever said what he wanted this openly. I didn't want to discourage him from ever doing it again. So I reached out and gave him a hug. Rosemine, what do you... I realize this shouldn't be the case by now, but guess what? I still don't understand romantic love! Yeah, I think that should have been obvious to him. A somewhat strange declaration to make while clinging to someone, but yes, I am well aware. Yeah, you should be well aware by this point. Ferdinand, exasperation clear in his voice. My only desire is to become your family in the truest sense. I mean, yeah, technically, if he was to get married to her, he would technically be family to her, if you want to put it that way. I do not expect any of the more sensitive aspects of romance that commonly occur between men and women. As I was already like family to you, if we do get married, things need only stay as they are. At least for the time being, until she comes of age. In which case, things would pick up from there, which, I mean, they could both get... I mean, I don't know if Ferdinand would need advice on that one, but Rosemine definitely would. That put my mind at ease. If he really was okay with me treating him like family and not doing anything romantic, I mean, they don't have to do anything romantic. At least, like I said, not until she comes of age. Then I wouldn't disappoint him. I cannot stand the thought of our connection being severed and another man becoming a member of your true family, that is all. Ferdinand touched the rainbow ornament in my hair. Do you not find it miserable how much people gossip and assume simply because you express your concern for someone? Yeah! That's annoying. Oh, she's been concerned about Ferdinand ever since he left for Ahrensbach. Probably even before that, considering how much he worked himself. But, yeah, everybody assuming that she's in love with Ferdinand just because she cares about him doesn't necessarily mean it's romantic love. I mean, it might be. We don't know. Because she's kind of, like she said, she's not good with this sort of thing. So we have no clue. Anybody can tell me? I did. It frustrated me to no end that even when his life was on the line, everyone had urged me not to worry about him. But if we're engaged, I can worry about him without anyone complaining. Yeah, you can. Are you really okay with our relationship staying the same, I asked? Yes. Well, duh. Why would he say it otherwise? His quick, casual response made me hesitant. I didn't want him to change his mind once we were married and suddenly start expecting more from me. And you said my phasmophobia will probably return. I mean, maybe not. It just depends, because we know that her memories of her family came back, but hopefully her phasmophobia will not. In the event that it does, I'll do my best to help wherever I can, but it won't stop me from being a burden as both an ob and a wife. Are you truly willing to accept that? I am. You might not be able to use face stones, but your status as a divine avatar will compensate. If you return to being a commoner, I will not even have that to depend on. Think carefully about this decision, as this is your last chance to return to your old way of living. I want to go back to my family, but it wouldn't be easy for me. Too much was resting on my shoulders. In my absence, I doubted Ferdinand would show Letizia even the slightest trace of consideration, and the nobles of Arensbach would receive harsher punishments. I also had the names of several of my retainers. How would my death impact them? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, returning their names was an option, but Roderick and Grisha would need to go back to the families that cut ties with them. And what about Matthias and Lorenz, who had given their names to avoid execution? Yeah, you couldn't really do that either. I couldn't imagine Hartman and Clarissa would even accept having their names returned, and would have would the whole ordeal not make Ferdinand seem especially suspicious. Somehow I got the feeling my name swarm would all go with Rosemine to her grave. Ferdinand wasn't one to shy away from eliminating those in his path. He would do whatever was necessary to perfectly forge my death. I sincerely doubted that someone with the gall to attack a wereman and the goddess of wisdom would refrain from taking out a few fellow nobles. Yeah. I have to agree. In an attempt to appeal to his more rational side, I elected not to say that I refused to abandon everyone I cared about from my life as a noble, and instead chose some more agreeable phrasing. Both explanations were honest, but this one was more likely to convince him. For me to become a commoner, my stab would need to be sealed, no? I wouldn't be able to make my own rejuvenation potions or rely on you or my retainers for them. As for draining my mana, I would continuously need to visit the temple. It might sound grim, but I doubt I would survive very long as a commoner. Indeed, I wouldn't be able to last as a simple commoner. That was why I joined the temple and endured so many encounters with nobles all those years ago. Yeah, that's why she joined, because that way she could drain her mana. Well, actually, the more big reason she joined was to get books, but whatever. Not to mention, I now had enough mana to become Lizette. I would never be able to keep it under control. I would run into nobles on a regular basis during my trips to the temple. They would all soon come to realize the true importance of religion, and it would only take one of them to recognizing me for all sorts of complications to arise. Yeah, we don't need that. Not to mention, I continued, I think the life of a commoner would prove too much for me. I couldn't even draw water back when I was living in the lower city. I can't do chores, and so much time has passed that I wouldn't know how to blend in. Since my arrival in this world, I'd spent only 2 years as a commoner. Even then, my health had rendered me mostly bedridden, so I'd seldom had the chance to associate with my neighbors or attend weddings, funerals, and the like. I didn't have a good foundation to build upon. I could move in with my family again, but I'd only be a burden on them, I said. As long as you arrange for me to meet them on a regular basis, I think it might be best for me to remain a noble. Ferdinand wrapped an arm around me and once again held me tight. Would you truly choose me, Rosemine? As long as you don't regret marrying me. I mean, as long as you don't regret it, yeah. I'd entrusted my body to Ferdinand and was taking comfort in his warmth, and I suddenly realized something. Now that we were alone and my divine mana was gone, there was something we needed to do. Ferdinand, let me give you back your name stone. I don't need it now that my divine mana is gone, right? He had given me his name for practical reasons, because my overwhelming divine powers had made it tough for him to even be near me. Resolved to return it, I took out his name stone, Ferdinand made no move to accept it. He simply looked to one side. You do not need it, he repeated, noticeably upset. Oh, no. I started to panic. In hindsight, I really had chosen my words poorly. I just mean, it isn't right for me to keep it. I do not follow. Doesn't it feel wrong for us to have, No, all you have to do is give your name to him. That's what some couples do, right? They actually do that, from what I remember reading in the books. Some couples would give their names to each other to prove their love for each other. Because, they got their life in their hands. Doesn't it feel wrong for us to have, a master-servant relationship? Family needs to be equal. And if we were going to get married, then it was even less of a reason for me to keep his name stone. Ferdinand said nothing in response. He kept looking between me and the small cocoon in my hand, which he didn't even attempt to take. Is there a problem? I eventually asked. We can be equals without you returning my name. No? I cocked my head. His meaning was lost on me at first, but then I remembered something Lenore had told me. Back when we were discussing whether to take the children of the former Veronica faction's names, she had said that she was especially taken with the idea of exchanging names with the person she loved, and swearing that their feelings for one another would endure for eternity. That's what I'm saying! You guys could do that! And then there wouldn't be any problem with you having his name stone, as long as he had yours. But, would you be able to use your name as Rosemine, or would you use mine? Or would you do with Arano? That's what I don't know. Are you proposing we give our names to each other, I asked? That sounds like a moving scene from a story, and it would make us equals, but it isn't exactly realistic. Lenore said so, too. It is unrealistic. Correct. I mean, what about our descendants? Huh? What's that got to do with anything? Yeah, to whom do you refer, Ferdinand asked, furrowing his brow. I mean, let's say we do get married. It's reasonable to assume we might, have children, right? Oh, God, awkward! Well, that's not till she's of age, at least. Isn't that, 2-3 years from now? Right? Still got time? Uh-oh, this is bad. Thinking about getting married and procreating was awkward enough on its own. Discussing it with Ferdinand was 10 times worse! No! Something I thought would never have anything to do with me now seemed very close to him. I mean, you are getting close to being of age, girl. You're 14 at this point? Don't you become of age when you hit, 15, 16? I think it's 15. No, she's 13 at this point, I think. I don't know. Stay calm, Rosemine, stay calm. But I'm gonna need a successor, meaning we need to adopt at the very least. We also need someone who can keep the city alive in our absence, something like Letizia, right? If we're engaged through that royal decree, then we're going to have to adopt her. First, we'll need to abolish that tradition of Aaron's box, so she can remain an Archduke candidate, but yes. Once you have come of age and our star binding has been held, we will need to adopt her. Letizia agreeably shared the same fate as the noble children orphaned in the war with Lanzanov, so I intended for her to stay in the temple until the adoption. A relieved sigh escaped me. I thought it best for Ferdinand, Letizia's main victim, to decide how we would treat her going forward. It was good to hear that he'd chosen to mask her crimes, so it wouldn't have been pleasant punishing a child we knew had been exploited. So, Ferdinand continued, what do our descendants have to do with our name swearing? Good question. I mean, again, when we're going to be married, if we give our names to each other and one of us ascends to the distant heights, the other will immediately follow. Think about the hardships that would create for any kids we leave behind. They would struggle enough with only one parent. During my time as Arano, my father had died in a car accident. Oh, okay, now we get that. If my mother had somehow been name sworn to him and died at the same time, I wouldn't have known what to do. Even in this world, it wasn't uncommon for people to lose their parents while they were still young. Benno, Sylvester, and Guy Ilgner had all came to mind. A lot of Sylvester's troubles came from him having to take over as the Archduke at such a young age, right? He was already an adult by then, but imagine if the burden had dropped into his lap when he was still only a child. Not to mention, he had Bonifacius to oversee the handover. We won't have a single adult Archduke candidate to provide support in the event of our untimely deaths, not including Letizia. The two of us comprise Alexandria's entire Archduke family. Should we not do our best to avoid such an unfortunate outcome? Ferdinand stared at me in surprise, like he hadn't considered that outcome. I see. An astute observation, I must admit. I am somewhat shocked to hear such a forward-thinking argument from you. Your mind is normally far too preoccupied with books. Dude, she can think about something out of the books, dude. Following that rather mean remark, Ferdinand gestured for me to stand. Even now, he hadn't taken back his namestone. I stayed put at first, but reluctantly complied when he repeated the instruction out loud. Ferdinand, your namestone, I said, fixing him with a glare as I proffered it again. He responded with a dismissive wave, then looked down at all the tools scattered about and muttered that he would need to come back tomorrow to clean. Ferdinand, I repeated. Come here, how is your health? Has your mana calmed down? He touched my forehead and nape as he launched into one of his usual inspections. I could guess from the way he was planning which potion to give me before bed that he had absolutely no intention of taking back his namestone. Ferdinand! I cried, I will take it back 2 years from now. Please be patient until then. There's no need for you to set aside Shutsaria's shield. He then picked me up with one arm and carried me to the exit as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Shutsaria's shield? Can you make that with a namestone? Is that a euphemism or something? I'm assuming when he said Shutsaria's shield, that he means his namestone. What are you calling yourself, her shield? Which, I mean, fair enough. If you need anybody as a shield, I assume that Ferdinand will be more than happy to help with that, and be able to defend you very easily, too. I had so many questions, but Ferdinand refused to answer them. He uttered not another word as he took me out of the Foundation's hall. Lady Rosemine, Lord Ferdinand, Grisha, and Justice said, rushing over as soon as they saw us. We were worried when you did not return. It took Rosemine quite some time to regain consciousness, Ferdinand replied, but you need not worry any longer. My other retainers arrived in short order, having most likely been informed of our return. Hartman and Clarissa fought to reach me first, then waxed ecstatic about how wondrous they had found my recreation of the ancient spell. An enormous magic circle had apparently spread across the night sky and put on such a grand display that no one would question it had come from a divine avatar. Have a nice return from the border gates, Ferdinand asked. Straw and his group should return soon, Justice answered. I see. Angelica, I entrust Rosemine to you. He handed me over, then turned to my attendants. Grisha, Lazletta, have Rosemine drink the Blendrus-infused rejuvenation potions in this box, and prioritize her rest above all else. Cleanse her with a washing instead of giving her a bath, then adjust your plans for tomorrow depending on her health. Ferdinand seemed exhausted as he instructed my other retainers. On instinct, I reached out to him and said, you could use Slothtrum's... No, Rosemine, please, for once, can you not pray to the gods? In retrospect, that was probably wise. I should save it for tomorrow, then. Angelica picked me up and carried me to my bed. A canopied frame had already been prepared so I could go straight to sleep. Lazletta wore a bright smile as she approached and started changing my clothes. Indeed, the awe-inspiring divine power that overtook your mana has faded. I can approach you without needing to be covered with silver cloth. You looked quite divine as you shone with light, Lady Rosemine, but it puts me more at ease to see you back to normal, Grisha agreed. Only then did it fully sink in that my divine power was gone for good. Yay! Busy days. Hold on, how long have I been recording? 43 minutes! I don't want to stop! I want to continue! I awoke the next morning feeling better than ever. Not having to worry about dying meant I slept well. I got to drink a potion for the first time in ages, and most of all, recovering my mana would no longer cause me unbearable pain. Life couldn't get any better than this. Lazletta's hands didn't tremble as she did my hair. To put it simply, it felt like I was human again. Lady Rosemine, Gracious said, Lord Ferdinand wishes to check your health after breakfast. I see. I wonder if he'll bless me with some reading time. Surely I deserve some now that I come back from the brink of death. I looked to Grisha, who looked to Clarissa for more information. I could not say, Grisha replied. It will depend on your health, I imagine, but your schedule is already rather packed for today. Clarissa nodded and opened up her diptych. You can expect to be immensely busy in the lead up to the Archduke Conference. An Intuicum must be performed post-haste to rebuild the city and castle. We must also welcome the new Zent so that the criminals can be punished, not to mention the preparations that need to be made for your engagement ceremony. I doubt you will get much time to raid in the near future. The nobles' quarter is in an uproar preparing for the Intuicum, and the scholars are hard at work producing the necessary schematics. Wait, hold on, my engagement ceremony? Yeah, it needs to be official! Dude! I had agreed to marry Ferdinand only the night before. Were things moving a little too fast? Clarissa's blue eyes widened in response to my surprise. If we do not perform the Intuicum at once, then your Gutenbergs and the war orphans will not have anywhere to live. It would also be considered a slight against the new Zent to welcome her to a city still bearing Lanzanov's scars. The importance of performing an Entwicon wasn't lost on me. If people were going to be homeless, then we needed to act fast. Even when I was formally recognized as an OB, I wouldn't be able to summon Fran, the Gutenbergs, and everyone else to Alexandria unless we attached doors and windows to the newly made buildings. Carpenters will need to be hired at once. I can understand needing to rush the Entwicon, but why is Zet Eglinton coming now when she just came into power and the Archduke Conference is right around the corner? Is this really the best time to invite her? Can the criminals not wait? As I understood it, Eglantine had gone through hell to make her namestone and carry out all the required preparations in time for the transference ceremony. Coming to Alexandria would only exhaust her further. I am told that one of her reasons for coming here is to ensure that the Lonsdorf estate and its teleportation circle to her future home have been completely destroyed, Clarissa explained, though her most important goal is to approve your engagement with Lord Ferdinand. Won't she give her approval during the Archduke Conference? Is there a point in doing it now when we're already so busy? I pursed my lips, wishing for more time to prepare emotionally. My retainers all stared at me in shock. One by one, Leda, Clarissa, and Grisha extolled the importance of performing the engagement ceremony sooner rather than later. Lord Ferdinand is still associated with Ehrenfest. Unless the ceremony is performed soon, he will not be able to join you at the Archduke Conference. If you postpone your engagement, will you not feel the consequences more than anyone? Attending the Archduke Conference alone at your age seems like far too great a burden. The rest of the Archducal family has been obliterated, and you have spent not even a full month in Alexandria. As you were unfamiliar with Arensbach's previous circumstances and have yet to meet all of its nobles, I do believe you will need Lord Ferdinand to support you. Definitely on that one. I inhaled sharply. They all made excellent points. Now wasn't the time to be embarrassed about exchanging face stones in front of a massive crowd of nobles, or about giving dramatic declarations of love filled with biblical allusions. Oh, that's gonna be awkward to do. Delaying my engagement would cause me no end of trouble. There is much you will need to do as the Ob, Ferdinand said, having taken me to my new office once he'd completed my health inspection. This will go a lot quicker if you understand your schedule and the importance of each role you must perform. I thought we'd see at least one scholar, I mused, while inspecting the room. We were the only ones there. There weren't people working or waiting outside. Isn't everyone preparing for the Archduke Conference? They are working in my office. This room has not been used for anything except storing documents for quite some time. Detlinde had apparently come here to work, but not for long. She had soon grown tired of the walk and insisted that anything she needed to sign to be brought to her personal chambers instead. Of course, she still refused to allow Ferdinand entry to her room, obviously, so most of the commonly used documents had needed to be moved to his office. That said, this first task of yours requires us to be here. You must contact Sylvester using the water mirror. Then we will open the dormitory to the Royal Academy. He got me to stand in front of the tool used for emergency communication between obs and said, "How fares your face stone phobia?" I gazed down at the water mirror. Searing the face stone within made the blood drain from my face. I touched it with trembling hands and tried to smile while I supplied it with mana. It's okay. Just work on that. You just need to work on it. No complaints, I said. As you can see, I am touching the mirror without issue. Maybe because my negative memories hit me all at once, their strength in isolation seems much weaker than before. You might have convinced me if you're not for your shaking hands and the tears in your eyes. Yeah, you kinda didn't really convince him. Ferdinand placed some cloth over the face stone so I wouldn't have to see it. Still, that means that you were even conscious indicates some improvement. Do not overdo it. Rosemine, came a voice from the water mirror. If you're contacting me like this, then you must have gotten rid of your divine power. How are you doing? Feeling better? As soon as he appeared in the mirror, Sylvester asked about my health. I could tell I'd worried him to no end. I grinned and waved to assuage his concern. Yeah, thanks to Ferdinand, the divine power is all gone. I'm doing much better now. Glad to hear it, Sylvester said with a relieved sigh. He mentioned that he would pass the good news along to Elvira, Bonifacius, and the others. Ferdinand, as decided, I permitted anyone with an Ehrenfest brooch to enter the dormitory. As soon as the dorm sends word, I'll give the schematics to Rosemine's retainers. Wait, what? Decided as of when? I was at a complete loss, but Ferdinand gave a nod indicating that he'd expected as much. Your assistance is appreciated. Do you anticipate any problems in the run-up to the Archduke Conference? Not as long as things go well on your end. I know better than anyone how busy someone gets once they've formally taken the Archducal seat. And nobles are all too prone to looking down on young obs. I'll provide all the support I can. Yeah, he's essentially trying to support you being the ob since you're so young, because he had to do it too. I didn't have a clue what he was talking about, but I thanked him anyway. Sylvester continued, send word when you've decided on a date for your engagement ceremony. I'll make sure everything aligns. It'll take place the day after the Zens visit, Ferdinand replied. We will contact you by water mirror when the finer details have been ironed out. Oh, spare me all that. You know I'm going to get called over no matter what I'm doing, and you also know who's to blame for me being so busy right now. I only answered this time because I wanted to make sure Rosamund was doing okay. For anything else, stick to letters sent to the dormitory. You aren't the only one with a full plate. And with that, Ferdinand and Sylvester's brief exchange came to an end. Lara's face vanished from the mirror. Ferdinand, could you not have explained all that to me before we contacted Sylvester? I asked with a stern glare. Don't you always preach the importance of sharing intelligence ahead of time? I shall enlighten you en route to our next destination, Ferdinand said. To signal my retainers and took me outside the room. Your stamina has yet to fully recover. Angelica, carry her. Angelica picked me up, and we departed. I wasn't familiar enough with the castle to guess where we were headed. Following a discussion about your plans for Alexandria, I obtained Sylvester's support by using a teleportation circle at the border gate to make sure your Gutenbergs approved the schematics for the Entwickelm. Excuse me? They've been checked? I knew he'd returned to the castle and taken care of some administrative work while I was under the throes of my divine power, but I hadn't expected him to send schematics to Ehrenfest. Well, I mean, you had to do all that beforehand if you're planning on doing something like that. Yes, as you considered it urgent, now that your divine power has faded, I wish to use the dormitory to receive the schematics and move your luggage. To that end, I obtained permission for your retainers, still registered with Ehrenfest, to enter. Okay, that explains them being able to, the people from Ehrenfest being able to enter Alexandria's dorm. Okay. Using the border gate would have meant sending the items from Alexandria's castle and trusting the knights stationed on our side of the gate to hand them over to Ehrenfest. Ferdinand was still wary of most of the knights from Old Ehrensbach, so he wanted to avoid relying on them when he could. That made sense to me. Ferdinand continued. Once the engagement ceremony is over, you will return to Ehrenfest until you have formally been made of Alexandria. This will stop the nobles of Old Ehrensbach from being able to approach you and make your security much easier to manage. It will also give you a chance to finish preparing for the move before official duties take over your schedule. There's a lot I need to memorize before the Archduke Conference, right? And is it really okay for me to return to Ehrenfest when I'm due to become the Ob of another duchy? Study Ehrensbach's geography and various industries, but do not worry about its nobles and their factions for the time being. I intend to use a series of tests to determine which nobles we will favor moving forward, and you will start by memorizing the names of those who pass. Not even I am well acquainted with many of the nobles Detlinde snubbed over the years. Those who had continued to work in the castle despite Detlinde's cold treatment of them stood out, but Ferdinand still needed to find out more about the nobles from the provinces. He hadn't interacted with them much, or with those Detlinde had commanded to stay out of her sight. Having been thrust into a test of my own just recently with the country's foundation of all things, I sympathized with the nobles about to be put through their paces. Ferdinand wouldn't listen to any of their grievances. We will all need to do our best to pass. Furthermore, he said, there are several things I want you to make before the Archduke Conference. You seem intent on using Ehrenfest's ingredients, facilities, and personnel. Won't that be a problem for Sylvester? You're already dumping a lot on him, aren't you? He agreed to help us, no? I see no reason to give it any more thought. Focus instead on making Alexandria's crest and die for your cape. Most of my retainers were in Ehrenfest, and our plans would result in my active retinue getting even smaller. It certainly did sound easier for me to return to Ehrenfest and gather ingredients for brewing rather than fight for my life here in Alexandria. I shall provide detailed documents later, Ferdinand said. You must have a lot of unfinished business in Ehrenfest, and returning there will prove much harder once you have been recognized as Ob Alexandria. Use this opportunity to finish as much as you can. Indeed, there was so much I still needed to do, but Ferdinand was only saying all this so I wouldn't feel guilty about returning to Ehrenfest. Our conversation continued until we eventually arrived outside the teleportation hall. The dormitory will now be reopened, Ferdinand announced. This is necessary not only so we can stay in contact with Ehrenfest, but also so that attendants can enter and start preparing for the Archduke Conference. Only the Op can open the teleportation hall and perform the initial unlocking of a dormitory. Rosamund, do you know the process? Yes, it was part of the Archduke candidate course. I asked my retainers to stand down, then took the key to the foundation from a leather pouch in my hip and used it to open the teleportation hall. As I entered, I gazed around the dark room in search of the magic tool that would activate the circle. As I suspected, it too is a phase stone. Well, of course. I reached out a trembling hand to touch it, repeating under my breath that I didn't need to look. It was cold, and the slight chill gave me goosebumps. Swallowing the shriek building up in my throat, I channeled my mana into the face stone. It wasn't long before the magic circle at the center of the room lit up, making its presence known. It's done! I did it! Oh, good lord. Face stone still scared me. Tears had already welled up in my eyes, but I was relieved to have safely completed one of my duties as an Ob entirely on my own. Yeah, you're gonna have to find a way to get over that. Hopefully. Now then, Ferdinand said, henceforth knights shall be stationed at the teleportation hall to serve as liaisons. Strahl gets along well with the knights of Old Arensbach, so I plan to leave the assignments and such to him. Rosamund will not be a problem. Not at all. Strahl, I trust you to do your best. I anticipate a lot of back and forth between Ehrenfest and the Zent in the lead up to the Archduke Conference, so contact me immediately in the event of an emergency. I turn my attention to the knights who will guard the teleportation hall, spurring them to salute in acknowledgement of their orders. Ferdinand had introduced them to me as members of a faction Detlinde had abused. They looked tense but proud, and were apparently moved to have seen my large-scale spell, in large part, I suspect, due to Hartmut's brainwashing. Oh, good lord. You, Lazletta, and Cornelius will teleport first, Ferdinand told me. Move to the waiting room when you arrive. I stepped onto the teleportation circle with my 2 retainers and warped to the dormitory. Once there, we did as instructed and relocated to the nearby waiting room used primarily at the start and end of each academic term, when massive groups of people needed to teleport. It was large and white and contained nothing of note. I see that Old Arensbach's teleportation hall and waiting room are identical to those found in the Ehrenfest dormitory, I mused aloud. The building looked rather unique when we flew past it, but are all dormitories the same on the inside? I don't know, Cornelius replied. The tea party rooms are pretty distinct, but I've never been inside another duchy's dormitory before. Don't even think about wandering off to check. We were told to wait for Lord Ferdinand. He must have seen me scooting closer to the door because he shot me an especially stern glare. I stayed put from that point onward, but it didn't quash my curiosity. No matter how much I tried to stay focused, my eyes kept wandering to the door. Soon enough, Ferdinand arrived with Eckert and Justice. I made these registration brooches with the face stones you provided, he said. Take them now. You will need them if you leave the dormitory. You made brooches? Only for those coming here today. I do not have nearly enough for everyone scheduled to attend the Archduke Conference, so I will need to brew more upon my return. Lazletta took one of the brooches and secured it to my cape for me. Now I can freely move in and out of the dormitory. Rosamund, start by contacting Eglantine, Ferdinand said, and prepare this letter to be sent in your name. I accepted and read through the letter in question. Written in Hartmut's hand, it explained that we had eradicated the divine power wreaking havoc on my body and reopened our dormitory. It also stated the date of our Entwicklung, asked when Eglantine planned to visit, and noted that we would station knights in the dormitory to relay her response. I signed and sealed the letter, then used my staff to send it away to Anastasius' villa. In the time it took me to do that, Ferdinand sent 2 letters of his own. I asked where they were headed. To the teleportation hall in the Ehrenfest dormitory, and to Raymond, who was in Herscher's laboratory. The former letter noted that we have reopened our dormitory and requested the schematics for the Entwicklung. The latter was a summons to the tea party room. Ferdinand then extended a hand to me. I took it and we exited the waiting room. The hallway was as white as I was used to, but the carpet was purple, a color I'd seldom seen in Ehrenfest dormitory or castle. I suppose the teleportation hall we had just used was situated in a small tower by the main building because the path ahead of us quickly circled downward. It was a fun little distinction that really made it stand out. The main building is beyond this curve, Ferdinand said. Wow, I exclaimed as they came into view. This dormitory has pots all over the place. Does the warmer climate mean they can use flowers as decorations even during the winter? During the academic year, flowers are brought only for the Interduchy tournament and the graduation ceremony. I still remember the previous Archduke Conference when Detlinde ordered that every single pot be decorated with them. It was a foolish endeavor if you ask me. The smell was strong enough to induce a headache, and several attendants had to waste their time tending to them. Flowers would add a welcome splash of color to the dorm, but they made Ferdinand terribly uneasy. He explained that their scent could mask poison, their petals could carry it, and they could even be paired with poison that activated with water. Good lord, just how awful was his life in Arensbach? I do not plan to order any flowers this year, Ferdinand said. Is that agreeable with you? I don't carry the way. Oh, but what about the people tasked with growing and preparing them? I wouldn't want to put anyone out of work. As a new ob, I wanted to avoid making changes that people will resent. Ferdinand said that he would keep my wishes in mind and then divert my attention to our surroundings. This is the dining hall. The tea party room is beyond it. As we continued toward the tea party room, a white letter shot into the dining hall and dropped into my hands. It was a special tool Hartmut had made to accommodate my fear of ordinances. I opened it and started to read. Lady Rosamund, this is Judith. I am at the Ehrenfest dormitory. Is everything ready for me to leave? Rosamund, wait in the tea party room for Judith to arrive. Lazletta replied by ordinance in her stead. I will go with Justice to unlock the dormitory. Having doled out his instructions, Ferdinand opened the door to the tea party room, then unlocked the door to the central building and immediately made to leave. One moment, Lord Ferdinand, Lysletta said, I must ask to go with you. As my lady's head attendant, will it not be my duty to unlock the dormitory in preparation for the Archduke Conference? I remember Lord Norbert doing as much for Ehrenfest. Ferdinand and Justice gave her awkward, sympathetic looks. As much as I appreciate your dedication, Ferdinand said, you are mistaken about something fundamental. Unlocking the dormitory is the duty of not the ops head attendant, but the dormitory supervisor. I am only doing it now because Frau Alarm was fired and has yet to be replaced. Oh. Professor Herscher has a tendency to ignore messages from Ehrenfest, Justice added. Norbert, her uncle. Oh! Norbert is her uncle! Oh, okay, we didn't know that. Unlocks the dormitory in her stead, not because he is the ops head attendant, but because he can drag her away from her research. He gave the tea set laden trolley he was pushing a few light taps and concluded, you should prioritize getting ready to welcome guests over learning to administer the dormitory. No sooner had the pair dropped that bombshell than they departed with Eckert to unlock the rest of the dormitory. Professor Herscher! Our absentee supervisor had made us look like naive greenhorns. Professor Herscher really is troublesome, isn't she? Lysletta said with a sigh, looking at Cornelius and me. She then prepared an ordnance and clearly spoke her message. Judith, this is Lysletta. Lady Rosemont is waiting in the tea party room. We couldn't exchange valuable documents out in the Royal Academy's hallways, and the only viable place that Judith, as citizen of Ehrenfest, could meet us was our tea party room. We started preparing to welcome her, and it wasn't long before she arrived with the schematics. Wow, Lady Rosemont, your divine power really is gone. It was too strong for me to get anywhere near you, so I'm glad you're back to normal. Judith's bright orange hair swayed as she hurried over to me, her violet eyes white as saucers. It was nice to see her so excited. I'd wondered if everyone would be disappointed about me losing my divinity. Lysletta brewed tea, while I accepted the Entwickeln schematics from Judith and spread them out on a nearby table. I could tell the Gutenbergs had checked them because they were marked with notes and minor alterations. The Gutenbergs were summoned to the temple where Brunhilde handed them the schematics from Groschel and Alexandria and told them to make any changes they wanted and write down any concerns they had, Judith explained. It must have been stressful for them. They really were put on the spot. Eep, have I given Benno and the others a reason to be mad at me? I mean, they'll be probably more relieved that you're okay. By attempting to honor their wishes, I might have made an even greater problem for them. Still, they had proposed some alterations, so the headache hadn't been for nothing. I appreciate the update. Now we can move forward with the Entwickeln, I said. Please give Brunhilde and Sylvester my thanks for their support. And thank you, Judith, for coming all the way here from the castle. It wasn't any trouble. I know things are getting busier with the Archduke Conference around the corner, so I'm just glad to be useful. I mean, I'm the only one without anything to do today. Felina's helping with spring prayer as an apprentice Blue Shrine Maiden, and Daniel is guarding her. They should be back soon, I think. Melchior and his retainers were overseeing the temple, and Judith had no reason to go there while Feline was absent. She generally had nothing to do but train in the castle. Bertilde and Annalie are preparing to move your things, she continued. They have almost all of your unseasonable belongings ready to go. Oh, and they're helping with preparations for the Archduke Conference. I'm technically supporting Brunhilde, but isn't much for an apprentice guard knight to do. The scholars in attendance, on the other hand. Judith was my apprentice knight. She didn't serve Brunhilde, which severely limited what she could do. Her only real duty at the moment was accompanying Brunhilde to the temple for her meetings with the merchants. Do let me know if you need any help in Ehrenfest, she said. I can do anything. Certainly, I will tell Hartman and the others to rely on you as well. Judith took her leave around the same time that Ferdinand, Eckert, and Justice returned from unlocking the dormitory. Raymond arrived a short while later. He must have been deeply immersed in his research because he looked sickly and uneasy on his feet. Lord Ferdinand, what in the world happened? Raymond asked. First, Justice told me not to come back to the dormitory, then Professor Herscher saw some strange group and told me not to leave the laboratory, and now I'm finally here. Lady Rosemont is sitting in our tea party room. He was completely out of the loop. Oh, that's going to be fun to explain. Oh, dear. Had second thought, maybe that was part of the reason he looked so pale. He didn't know that I was his new Ob, or even that Eglantine had taken over as the new Zent. Seriously? You didn't tell him anything? I snapped, shooting Ferdinand an especially harsh glare. Isn't he your retainer? Do you think we had the time? Besides, it was better to have him continue his research. He would not have been of much use to us in the castle, or would you have rather I cast him aside, since his family issues would only have inconvenienced us when you were fighting for your life? As it turned out, our obsessive researcher's family was a little on the problematic side. Returning him to the castle would only have caused us problems. Oh, no, let me stay in the laboratory, Raymond interjected, desperately shaking his head. Lord Ferdinand, I sincerely appreciate your consideration. Ah, I said with a nod. It was starting to make sense to me now. He's like Lostbaum. You want to keep those who can't keep themselves safe out of trouble. We have at last weathered the storm, Ferdinand said to Raymond, then handed the scholar a registration brooch. Find a stopping point in your research and return to the castle if you wish to remain my retainer. You will need to clear out your room in Old Arensbach before the Entwicon and attend the new Ob's engagement ceremony. Right, I'll return to the castle with you. It's been days since I made any real progress with my research anyway. I see. Be sure to inform Professor Herscher. Having finished our business in the dormitory, we entrusted everything else to the knights in the teleportation hall and returned to the castle. Raymond, here are the schematics for our Entwicon, Ferdinand said. Deliver them to the scholars in my office and observe their delegation of work. Justice, tell Hartman and Clarissa to join us in the Ob's office. From there, he took us to the back of the office and into a brewing room. The Ob and their retainers came here to brew magic tools, essential to the Duchy's operations, such as registration brooches. Later, we shall brew everything we would need for the Archduke Conference, Ferdinand explained. I was alone in the brewing room with Ferdinand and 3 of our retainers, Justice, Hartman, and Clarissa. We had excluded the scholars of Old Arensbach because those are not used to Ferdinand's methods. Will get in our way at every turn, but the fact that only our name swarm were present made me think he had other reasons too. Like, the nobles here don't know about my face stone phobia, for instance. Incidentally, there were guard knights stationed outside the door to the brewing room, and my attendants were preparing a corner of the Ob's office for when we took lunch. Now then, Rosemine, Ferdinand said, lining up tools and ingredients on the brewing stand. We need to brew the face stones to be exchanged at our engagement ceremony. Are you up for the task? If not, I can make yours for you. Wait, what? Is he proposing that he make his own engagement face stone? That's weird. I still remember the joy on his face when I'd given him a protective charm. He had said it was his first time ever receiving one. I couldn't bear the thought of making him brew his own face stone for our engagement. I can manage this much at the very least, I replied. On countless occasions, I've seen the negative consequences that arise from avoiding one's duties. If I run away now, I can hardly call myself a good woman. You sound assured, but one does not normally approach the creation of an engagement face stone like a knight going to war, Ferdinand said, his expression tinged with worry. Hold out your hand. Touched that he was being so considerate, I did as instructed. A small stone dropped onto my palm. This is a face stone taken from a regish. He said, I picked one from a size befitting the avatar of a goddess. Knowing that it came from a scale should assuage your fear somewhat, no? Thank you. I'm guessing those are the rainbow scales? I clutched the face stone in a trembling fist and started pouring mana into it, doing my best to avert my eyes. It was cold to the touch and sent a shiver down my spine, but I soldiered on. I needed to dye it with my own mana, no matter how uncomfortable it made me. At least I wasn't required to look at it. Take your time. Do not overdo it. I won't, but I refuse to lose to a face stone. Lose to a face stone. As I glared down at my hand, Ferdinand sighed and gave my forehead several quick pokes. Poke, poke, poke. You are too tense. Perhaps you should take a moment to consider the message you will engrave into your face stone before you start channeling mana into it. I didn't even have a chance to respond. Ferdinand then sneered at me like he'd remembered something amusing and added, though I would advise not using that phrase you asked me about! Oh, shit! Oh, I remember that one! Oh, dear Lord! No, don't use that one, don't! Obviously not, I cried, blushing red. It wasn't about to include such a direct invitation to my face in my face stone. Not now that I actually knew what it meant. Yeah. I am eager to see what you decide upon. I'm curious as to what he will decide upon. Ferdinand turned away from me to instruct Justice Hartman and Clarissa on how to create registration brooches. We needed enough for everyone attending the Archduke Conference, and for those who will need access to the dormitory beforehand to get everything in order. As the Ob, I should be making them myself, I said. I apologize for thrusting this burden on the rest of you. The gold dust you provided is enough, Ferdinand replied, and is the purpose of our engagement, not for me to support you. Focus on the duties you can perform. I couldn't help but feel guilty that he was taking on my work, but it motivated me to make him the perfect engagement face stone. I'll think of something so amazing and I'll render him speechless, but hopefully in a good way. Oh no, be careful what you write, girl. I dyed the face stone, then picked up a piece of parchment. I needed to decide what kind of message to put in the engagement stone. During class, Herscher told us to choose something that reflected ourselves and would move our partners' hearts. I just wasn't sure what Ferdinand would want to hear. I already vowed to make him a laugh, so that won't do. Even something like Let's Be Family feels unnecessary at this point. Yeah, because he already knows. No matter how much I racked my brain, I couldn't come up with a single good idea. I was starting to think I should just put a generic, I wish to be your goddess of light, and call it a day. Don't do that. Lady Rosemont, are you still debating what message to include? Clarissa asked. Yeah, can I ask what you carved into the face stone you gave Hartmut? No! Let us worship our goddess together, of course. I shouldn't have asked. Oh my god, those two were made for each other. I swear to God. As I hung my head, Clarissa gave me a slight smile. You won't find much use in other people's examples. She was right about that. In this case, I'd gained absolutely nothing of value. Could you not simply write what you wish to do for him? Clarissa pressed. Just like that, a phrase suddenly came to mind. I used my steps-made stylus to scribble it down on my sheet of parchment. Ferdinand must have noticed my enthusiasm because he came over to check on me. Done, are you? He asked. Now, no peeking. I quickly hid the parchment and glared at him. You'll need to wait until the big day. He gave a wry smile, took a step back, then turned away from me. Justice was smirking in my direction. I wanted to punch the stupid grin right opposite the white face. Would you like my assistance, Lady Rosemont? Hartmut asked. I can manage on my own, thank you. Even second years are taught how to do this. Yeah, we know that for a fact, considering what phrase you mentioned to Hersher. I turned down help from Clarissa as well, then dropped the face stone into the brewing pot and channeled my mana into it. Ferdinand and I were both Omni-Elemental, so there was no need for me to fret about which elements I used. Gold text arose within the rainbow face stone. Let me embroider your cape? Is that seriously what she chose? Okay. Very strange. Anyway, sadly, I'm going to have to end this part here. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so if you are excited for more from this book and future books I pick. And I will see you all next time.